what if the key to unlocking, like, tremendous power, the kind that doesn't just build wealth, but really sparks new ideas, new energy, wasn't just about your own individual brilliance, but about bringing minds together, in a way that creates something bigger, something more than just the sum of the parts.
That's a really fascinating idea, isn't it? And it's right at the core of what we're digging into today.
Right.
We're taking a deep dive into Napoleon Hill's thinking on power, specifically as the engine for success, focusing on Chapter 11 of Think and Grow Rich.
And we're not just looking at the original text, are we? We've also got those editor's comments, which are super helpful for connecting Hill's ideas to today, showing how relevant they still are.
Exactly. They sort of bridge the gap. So our mission here for you listening is to really get a handle on the specific method Hill lays out for generating this power.
Yeah, not just the theory.
Not just the theory, but how you might actually, apply it to your own goals.
Okay, let's jump right in then. Hill, well, he doesn't really pull any punches. He says power isn't just nice to have. It's absolutely essential.
Totally essential.
You could have the best plan ever. Yeah. But without the power to actually do it, it's just nothing, right? Just an idea.
Just an idea on paper. And he stresses it's not just for getting money. Crucially, it's needed to keep it too.
That's a key point, keeping it. So how does he define this power we need?
He defines it as organized and intelligently directed knowledge.
Okay, organized knowledge. That makes sense. But where does the organization part come from? How do you get that coordinated effort that actually, works?
Well, Hill says it comes from coordinating the efforts of 2 or more people, all working toward a specific, definite goal. And here's the kicker. In a spirit of harmony.
Harmony, there's that word again. It keeps popping up.
It really does. It's not just teamwork. It's how you work together. But okay, before we get too deep into the coordination, let's talk about the basic ingredients, the knowledge itself. Where does that come from?
Right, the building blocks. Hill points to 3 main sources. First, there's something he calls infinite intelligence.
Okay.
Now, this ties back to other parts of the book. He suggests it's accessed through creative imagination, the subconscious mind, tapping into something maybe beyond just our regular thinking.
Interesting. Okay, what's the second one?
Second is accumulated experience. This is basically all the knowledge humanity has gathered over time, libraries, schools, research, everything that's been collected and sorted.
And this is where those editors' notes really come alive, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
They point out how the computer revolution, the internet, it's just completely transformed our access to this stuff.
It's a total game changer. Yeah. Imagine trying to research something big 50 years ago versus now, just typing it into a search engine.
The sheer amount of information and how easy it is to find and organize, it's staggering.
Totally. And the third source?
Is experiment and research. So this is the ongoing process. People discovering new facts, figuring things out, organizing that new knowledge.
And again, the internet just speeds everything up incredibly fast.
Right. There's almost no lag time anymore between a discovery and it becoming available knowledge. It's pretty amazing.
So, okay, we have access to more knowledge than ever before. We can organize it, make plans. But Hill points out a big challenge, especially for, major goals.
What's that?
It's really hard, maybe impossible, to gather all the knowledge you need and turn it into action just by yourself. Relying only on your own brain, your own efforts.
Yeah, you just can't know everything or do everything. It's too much.
Exactly. And that limitation, that's precisely why involving others isn't just helpful, it's often necessary.
Which leads us right into the core principle Hill champions for building serious power.
The mastermind.
The mastermind principle.
Okay, so let's get Hill's exact definition out there. What is it?
He defines it as the coordination of knowledge and effort in a spirit of harmony between 2 or more people for achieving a definite purpose.
Okay. Coordination, harmony, definite purpose.
And he's really strong on this. He says no individual working alone can gain great power without using this mastermind principle, period.
Wow. No great power without it. He even says, if you follow his steps for planning, you're persistent, you choose your group wisely. Your goal is practically halfway there already.
It's a bold statement, isn't it? But it really underlines the kind of leverage he believed this offers.
Definitely.
And the power that comes from this alliance isn't just, one kind of power. Hill talks about it in 2 ways. And one of them uses a word that, it needed some clarification.
Right. The word psychic. which sounds a bit spooky.
Yeah, exactly. But the editors jump in quickly to say, look, Hill wasn't talking about seances or ESP here.
Right.
Psychic in his context just meant related to the human mind. It's describing that feeling, that synergy you get when you're really clicking with a group, all focused on the same thing. Your own thinking just feels amplified.
Okay, that makes more sense. So not supernatural, just mental synergy.
Exactly. So let's break down the two types of power he describes. First, there's the obvious one, economic power.
Right. This is the practical benefit. You surround yourself with smart people who give good advice, cooperate, and are all on the same page. Harmony again. And you create clear economic advantages. Hill basically says almost every huge fortune is built on this kind of cooperative group. Understanding just that can change how you think about making money.
Totally agree. But then there's the second type, the one he calls psychic power. This is maybe more subtle, more intriguing.
Yeah.
He talks about a third invisible, intangible force being created when minds coordinate in harmony. He literally calls it a third mind.
A third mind. What does that even mean practically?
Well, he uses an analogy. Think of a brain like a battery. One battery gives you some energy,
Okay.
but connect several batteries together correctly and you get way more energy, right?
Yeah, sure.
He says brains working together in harmony are like that. They generate much more thought energy than one brain alone. And crucially, this extra energy becomes available to every single person in that group.
Whoa. So it's not just adding brain power, it's like multiplying it, and everyone gets a boost.
That's the idea. Everyone benefits from that collective surge.
That's a really powerful concept.
It is. And Hill doesn't just leave it as theory. He gives some pretty impressive real-world examples.
Like who?
Andrew Carnegie, the steel guy. Apparently, Carnegie himself admitted he knew very little about the technical side of making steel.
Really? The Steel King?
Yep. So how did he build that massive empire? Hill says Carnegie surrounded himself with about 50 key people, all working in perfect harmony. And Carnegie credited his entire fortune to that mastermind group.
His entire fortune.
Yeah.
So it really was the group, not just him.
That's Hill's point. What about Henry Ford? We often think of him as the lone genius, right? Tinkering away.
Yeah, the quintessential inventor myth.
But Hill points out Ford started with major disadvantages. Poor, not much schooling. His big leaps forward happened after he became friends with Thomas Edison.
Oh.
And his most famous innovations, like the assembly line, really took off after he formed alliances with other sharp minds, Harvey Firestone, John Burroughs, Luther Burbank.
So it wasn't just Ford in isolation.
Not according to Hill. He argues we tend to take on the traits, the habits, even the thinking power of people we associate with closely, especially in harmony. Hill believed Ford consciously used this. He was adding their intelligence and experience to his own through these alliances.
That makes sense. It's not just what you know, but who you know and how you connect with them.
Exactly. It highlights that success is deeply tied to who you align yourself with.
Who else does he mention? It wasn't just business figures, was it?
No, he even brings up Mahatma Gandhi as an example of achieving stupendous power.
Agni, how does that fit?
Hill was amazed that Gandhi managed to induce, not force, over 200 million people to coordinate their minds and bodies in harmony for a single definite purpose: India's independence.
Wow. 200 million people working together harmoniously.
Yeah, Hill calls it a miracle. He points out how incredibly hard it is just to get two people to cooperate consistently in harmony, let alone millions.
That's a really good point. It puts the scale into perspective.
And the editors chime in here with more modern examples showing this isn't just some old historical idea.
Oh, yeah. Like who?
Well, think about Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak with Apple, or Bill Gates and Paul Allen starting Microsoft.
Classic garage partnerships.
Right. Or even Steven Spielberg, Jeffrey Katzenberg, and David Geffen creating DreamWorks. And they also mention a bigger group, the 30 regional directors of Century 21 Real Estate. The founder credited them heavily for their rapid growth.
So it scales from 2 people up to dozens. These examples really drive it home. The mastermind isn't just theory, it's behind some massive successes.
Absolutely. It seems to be a fundamental pattern.
Okay, so if this is so powerful, how do you actually build one? Your own mastermind alliance. Where do you start?
The very first step, and this echoes earlier chapters, is you absolutely must know your definite desire. What is it specifically that you want to achieve?
Because that tells you who you need.
Exactly. The goal dictates the kind of expertise and support you need in the group.
Makes sense. What about size? Are we talking 2 people, 50, like Carnegie?
It really depends. The editors point out examples ranging from just 2 or 3, like those tech founders, up to larger groups like the Century 21 directors. Hill himself often suggested maybe a dozen or less. Sometimes he even said smaller is better for maintaining focus and harmony.
So quality over quantity.
Pretty much.
Huh.
Allie, with as many as you genuinely need to create and execute your plan. And he says compliance here is essential. Don't just pull in friends because they're friends. They have to fit the purpose.
Okay. And when you're picking people, what are the absolute must-haves? It can't just be liking them, right?
Definitely not. Hill and the editors stress 2 core things, and you might need some trial and error. First, ability to do the job. They need the skills, the competence for whatever tasks relate to your goal.
No compromises on competence.
None. Your buddy might not be the tech expert, but maybe they know one and can make an introduction.
Okay, competence first. What's the other big one?
The ability to work in harmony. This is the absolute bedrock. There has to be a genuine meeting of minds, mutual respect, no hidden agendas. Personal ambition, even your own, has to be secondary to the group's shared goal.
That sounds like the toughest part, honestly, getting that true alignment.
It can be. And there are a few other important elements Hill mentions for making the group work well.
Like what?
Confidentiality is huge. People can't be leaking ideas. Attunement, really trying to see things from others' perspectives, noticing body language, what's not being said, and creating space for testing ideas, letting people play devil's advocate safely, not rushing decisions.
Okay, say you find people who seem to fit.
Yeah.
How do you actually get them on board and, keep them engaged?
Crucially, before you officially form the alliance, you need to figure out the benefits. What advantages will they get from cooperating with you? Nobody's going to work hard indefinitely for nothing.
Right. What's in it for me?
Yeah.
And is it always about money?
Money is often the biggest motivator, sure. But Hill also talks about recognition, the chance for self-expression, feeling like you're part of something meaningful. The leader has to model going the extra mile.
Okay.
But the critical piece is agreeing upfront on contributions and how any benefits or profits will be shared. Hill warns very clearly, figure this out at the start, or disagreement will happen later and destroy everything, maybe even friendships.
Oof. Yeah, getting that clear agreement sounds vital. So how often should a group like this actually meet?
Hill suggested at least twice a week, maybe more often, especially early on, while you're ironing out the plans and getting in sync.
And what's the purpose of these meetings? Just status updates?
Not just updates. Initially, it's about refining the plan, figuring out strengths and weaknesses, assigning roles, action steps. The alliance needs momentum.
Right.
But as the group gels and that harmony deepens, the meetings should become like idea incubators, a place where creative sparks fly and benefit everyone. But don't let it get too stiff and formal. Quick calls and formal chats are important too.
It all sounds like it comes back to that one core thing we keep mentioning, maintaining perfect harmony.
You just can't say it enough. Hill is crystal clear. Maintain perfect harmony with every single member. If you fail here, the mastermind principle it won't work. You'll fail. Full stop.
Wow, that's intense. How do you do that in practice?
You have to actively build the right environment, make it non-threatening, explore all ideas fairly, respect people's feelings even if you disagree with the idea, operate ethically, no backstabbing, no trying to get ahead at someone else's expense.
And the leader's role in that.
The leader has to be the rock. Inspire confidence through total dedication to the shared goal. People need to see the leader is reliable, trustworthy, loyal to them and the mission.
It feels like if you have that strong internal unity, it must project outwards too, like when dealing with investors or the public.
Oh, absolutely. Think about facing criticism. An individual might waver, but a team that's truly united, that has that harmony, they have immense collective courage. More harmony equals more power, which helps push back against any resistance you face.
It's really interesting that Hill doesn't just keep this in the boardroom. He talks about applying it personally too.
He does, yeah. He specifically mentions a mastermind alliance with your spouse, someone you deeply love. He calls it incredibly important.
Really? How does that work?
Same principles. Harmony, mutual respect, shared definite purpose, your life goals together. He even suggests talking daily about what you want to achieve as a couple.
But he adds a warning, right? You can't force it.
Exactly. The harmony has to be real, mutual. Don't drag an unwilling partner into your ventures. Ideally, you build that collaborative spirit into the relationship itself. And it affects the whole family. Conflict at home spills over. A united family is its own powerful team.
And then he connects this group harmony back to that biggest source of power he talked about earlier, infinite intelligence.
Right. He suggests that when a group gets into that state of harmony, focused on a clear goal, they actually open themselves up to draw power directly from that universal storehouse, infinite intelligence.
So it's like alignment unlocks access.
That's his idea. He sees it as the ultimate source where geniuses and great leaders tap in, maybe without even realizing it. But again, he frames it as a mechanism for achieving goals, not, a religious doctrine.
To make this less abstract, the editors provide a really great concrete example. Hill's own Mastermind with W. Clement Stone.
Yes, this is such a perfect illustration. You see the guy who wrote the book actually living the principle.
So tell us about Stone.
Stone started with nothing, built a big insurance agency. Then, in 1938, he reads Think and Grow Rich, and it totally transforms his business. He bought thousands of copies for his salespeople.
Wow. So he was a true believer.
Absolutely. And he actually sought Hill out. In 1951, he arranged a meeting. Hill was thinking about retiring, but they clicked instantly, that harmony, that meeting of minds. By the end of the meeting, Hill postponed retirement to partner with Stone. They formed Napoleon Hill Associates.
Just like that.
Just like that. Their shared purpose was promoting the philosophy for a better world. They essentially became each other's mastermind.
And what did they achieve together?
An incredible amount. New books by Hill, reissues of old ones. They co-authored the huge bestseller Success through a positive mental attitude. They launched Success Unlimited magazine, created courses, TV shows, radio programs, even a film about the philosophy transforming a town. Constant speaking tours.
That's a massive output. Did it impact Stone's business directly?
Hugely. Hill created a training program for Stone's insurance agents based on these principles. It helped Stone's company grow its assets from $30 million to $100 million in less than 10 years.
Wow.
And Stone's later company, Aon, became a multi-billion-dollar giant. He also became a major philanthropist, giving away hundreds of millions.
The sheer volume and impact of what Hill and Stone did together.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a powerful testament to the mastermind idea in action.
It really is. Few examples show it so clearly.
Okay, Hill uses one last really vivid analogy in this chapter. It's about the force that actually attracts money. He says money is shy and elusive.
Yeah, like you have to woo it like a lover.
Right, and the power you use for that wooing. He says it's positive emotion.
Yes. He argues that positive emotional energy, when you focus it on getting money, needs to be mixed with faith, desire, and persistence, and critically applied through a real plan that you actually act on.
He paints a picture of this great unseen stream of power, like a river.
With two sides, two currents. One side, driven by positive emotions, faith, love, enthusiasm, flows towards wealth. The other side, driven by negative emotions, fear, doubt, hate, flows toward poverty and misery.
And he says successful people recognize this stream.
They recognize it and understand it's about their thinking process. Where are they focusing their mental and emotional energy?
And he describes the book itself, and maybe this deep dive too, as an oar.
Exactly. An oar to help you row from the poverty side over to the wealth side of the stream. But, and this is so important, the oar only works if you use it. Through application.
Right. Reading isn't enough.
Not nearly enough. You have to pick up the oar at the principles and start rowing with positive emotion, a plan, and persistent action.
That's a great visual. It's an active process of choosing your direction on that stream.
And his final thought here is pretty blunt. Poverty doesn't need a plan. It's bold, it finds you easily. Riches, they're timid. They have to be attracted through well-thought-out, carefully executed plans, powered by positive emotion, and ideally the strength of a mastermind.
So, thinking back over everything we've covered in this chapter, we've looked at what Hill means by power for accumulating wealth, where it comes from, knowledge, intelligence, research.
And how the mastermind principle is his key method for organizing all that through harmony, creating both economic benefits and that interesting psychic energy, the third mind.
We saw those powerful examples: Carnegie, Ford, Gandhi, Hill and Stone, the modern companies, and we got into the nitty-gritty of how you might build and, crucially, maintain your own alliance.
Yeah, focusing on competence, that non-negotiable harmony, clear agreements, and the driving role of positive emotion.
The core idea seems to be that this principle is available to anyone listening, but it takes real effort, right? Intentionality, careful choices about who you ally with, and a serious commitment to harmony and the shared goal.
Absolutely. Riches aren't just stumbled upon, they're attracted by deliberate, empowered, often collaborative action.
So the final thought for you to chew on, maybe, given the kind of leverage and energy that Hill says comes to this coordinated, harmonious effort, what definite purpose in your life or your work could you truly supercharge by consciously building a mastermind alliance around it.